Consumerism and comparison with others corrode people from within. There is so much brainwashing done through advertising. There are advertising techniques that act by instigating our desires. Persuasion makes us believe that we need to buy more and more things to be happy. Now, it feels good to buy things because it brings instant gratification, but this can lead to financial stress, anxiety, and even problems in relationships. So it is very important to find a balance and focus on the good things that we already have in our life, rather than just wanting more and more. True happiness and fulfillment comes from within, not from external material possessions. Money Arata. Consumerism and comparing yourself to others can eat you up from within. When we see the rich and the famous splurging, do you notice that the envy is quite small? The reason is that their reality is so far away from ours that it makes no sense to be trying to compare our life and our possibilities with them. But it is a pretty different story when we look at people who are closer to us. Imagine you have a job that is better than the job of your neighbor, but your neighbor is always changing their car every year. You wonder how can he afford that? Or maybe you have a relative who is always enjoying luxurious holidays. You wish you had the same luxury, but you are ashamed to admit, even to yourself, your envy. So you begin to think that maybe your neighbor or your relative is doing something wrong, maybe they're showing off. You start to nurture negative feelings towards them. And at these times, there are two parts of your brain in conflict. On the one hand, you know that material possessions and external achievements don't actually guarantee your happiness, but on the other hand, you have an irresistible desire to also have what other people have. Your envy can motivate you to do better in life, but it can also generate a consumerist cycle that can give you a lot of harm. So please don't fall into the trap of thinking that the grass of your neighbor is always greener. You have to appreciate the good things that you already have in your life, and this can help you to feel more satisfied and happy. This is not financial advice. Please read the full disclaimer before proceeding. If you are not grateful for what you already have, you probably won't be grateful when you have more. It is very easy to think that you would be happy if you had a bit more. Maybe a new car, a bigger house, a better salary. But see, if you don't find happiness and gratitude on the things that you already have, it is unlikely that more possessions will actually bring the happiness that you so desire. If you constantly focus on what you don't have, you will get stuck in a cycle of desire, dissatisfaction, because desires are infinite. No matter how much you have, it will never be enough. Now, on the other hand, gratitude for the good things in your life that you already have, this will take the focus out of what is missing and will put your attention on the abundance that already exists. Gratitude gives you perspective and helps you to feel more happiness. For example, when you feel sad or frustrated, negativity makes you forget about the good things in life, right? But that mindset can change if you make a conscious effort to actually focus on the things that you're grateful for. Being grateful for what you have is a choice. It is something that you can cultivate and practice every day. So the next time that you find yourself wanting more and more, take a step back. Reflect on the things that you already have and be grateful. This can help you to find happiness and contentment in the present moment rather than just wanting more and more. Comparison is normal. However, there is a positive comparison and a pathological comparison. It is completely normal to compare ourselves with others, and this comparison mechanism allows our brain to assess how are we doing, and we can identify areas where we can improve. Comparing ourselves to others can even motivate us to be better, to work harder, and then achieve our goals. But comparison can be dangerous if you let that comparison to dominate you. Because see, if you constantly compare yourself to others, you can suffer from feelings of inadequacy, frustration, and even resentment. The key here is to find a balance and use comparison as a tool for motivation and inspiration rather than letting it bring you down. If comparison gets you down, it is time for you to reassess your feelings. Don't let your chaotic thoughts overwhelm you. Organize your thoughts so that you can master them. If you find yourself in a negative comparison cycle, you have to reflect on your thoughts and your feelings. Write down the thoughts that get you down. Try to identify the patterns or themes, and then you can reinterpret all these thoughts in a more positive way. For example, instead of thinking, oh gosh, I'm never going to be as successful as my friend, you can try thinking, I'm on my own path. And there's no sense comparing my life to others. The important thing is that I am making progress towards my own goals. If you remain stuck in this cycle of comparison and desire for material possessions, there is one more step that you can take. You can make a list of everything you want and then sort these items into a hierarchy. And this will help you to focus on what really matters to you. The key to remember here is that true happiness and fulfillment comes from within. It is not about what we have and what we can buy. No, it's not about that. When you focus on what really matters to you, then you'll be on the path to true inner peace and contentment. Your needs are finite. Your desire is infinite. Advertisers, therefore, want to instigate your desires. One factor that exacerbates that feeling of envy is the influence of advertisers. Because advertising professionals understand a powerful difference that our needs are finite, but our wants, they're infinite. Since the early days of mass production, companies have been very smart, very cunning, using marketing techniques to instigate our desires and persuade us to buy their products. Edward Bernays, the father of modern public relations, used the principles of psychology and sociology to shape how we think about consumerism. He believed that by accessing our deepest desires and emotions, he could influence our purchasing decisions and then create a culture of consumerism. We explain all of that in detail with practical activities within our financial psychology training that you can learn more about in arata.se/money taboo. It is not just about selling products. Advertisers use social comparison to achieve the goal of selling more. See, advertising shows images of people who are supposed to be happier, richer, more successful because of their material possessions. Thus, the advertisers try to convince us that, well, if we buy the same products, we will probably be as happy and successful as those imaginary people. But the truth is that the desire for constant consumerism can be harmful. It can lead to financial stress and anxiety, as well as having negative effects on our relationships and our own well-being. Furthermore, a focus on consumerism can have wider social consequences. See, with the mass production systems producing more and more goods, there is a risk of an economic crisis because there might be not enough demand to be sustaining this overproduction. So the next time you're tempted by acquiring more items because of an ad, stop. Think about what is driving your desire to buy. Is this something that you really need? Or is it an attempt to mess with your emotions and keep up with the Joneses? Remember that happiness and fulfillment come from within, not from material external possessions. Remember that it is okay to compare ourselves to others as long as it doesn't overwhelm us. The important thing here is to try to find a balance and use comparison as a tool for our motivation and continued improvement rather than just letting it bring us down. Also, remember that advertising has a powerful influence on our society and on your mind. So when you notice that some advertisement has tempted you to consume, think about whether you really need to make that purchase. The key here is to recognize that true happiness and fulfillment come from within, not from material possessions. To help you master the psychological forces that bring you your financial prosperity, you can go and visit arata.se/money taboo.